Right now in 10, some Madison residents are seeing a big rise in property taxes. Tell you what's behind that increase.
And a first-of-its-kind ban, the Australian ruling that could impact social media in the U.S.
And spreading the joy of Christmas, how one local event is giving back to local families in need. That's all coming up on News 3 Now at 10. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Eric Franke.
And I'm Sarah Carlson. We told you earlier that people in Madison and Fitchburg have been receiving higher property tax bills.
And it comes after voters approved 2 referendums last year for the Madison School District at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars.
One of the referendums asked for $507 million to renovate or replace 10 schools. The other asked for $100 million to cover operating expenses.
Now, over 4 years, the average homeowner in Madison will pay $3,800 more. And we spoke to a woman who's owned a home since 2019, and she'll be paying an additional $750 towards property taxes this year. However, she says as long as she's able to make ends meet, she's okay with more of her money going toward Madison students.
I would say that there's no easier way to support your community in such a hyper-local way. You are investing in your community, and you're going to see the dividends pay out some way.
Now, everyone doesn't agree with her, though. On News 3 Now's Facebook page, more than 100 people reacted to their property tax increases, leaving comments like, quote, another $1,000 from last year. Retirement can't happen if I want to stay in my house, end quote. So what does the school district have to say about all this? And is the referendum money so far going where it's supposed to go?
Our Armand Rahman contacted them to find out and caught up with a local realtor about the impact that this has on the housing market.
Finance staff for the district say their hands are tied because the legislature doesn't share the cost of local public schools, but they acknowledge that this is the highest year of the recurring property tax hike.
Those are legitimate concerns.
So you took a look at your property tax bill this month and said, whoa.
I think anytime it goes up, there's a little bit of a shock.
But MMSD's Assistant Superintendent of Financial Services, Bob Solner, says he gave voters a clear understanding of what the estimated taxes would be this year.
You want to tell people if you vote yes, this is what we think your taxes are going to go up. You want to estimate higher than what it actually ends up being. I will say the actual numbers are less than what we were projecting, which is still a tax increase.
Regardless if you voted yes or no for the 2 MMSD referendum questions, is there anything you can do now?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of success with people going to the city and getting a change in their tax bill.
But Dan Tenney, realtor with MHB Real Estate, says you can try to lower the overall cost.
I know when homes get reassessed, they have the opportunity to talk with the city assessor and perhaps get an adjustment to what the home has been assessed at. But nothing's going to change with the mill rate. The mill rate is set as the multiplier for what the tax bill is going to be based on.
And already, Dane County's average tax bill is double that of the average Wisconsin county.
And now we've got a little bit more on the tax bill as well. So especially for people, first-time home buyers, and those trying to get into their first home, it presents even a little bit more of a challenge.
A challenge, but district officials say the money is going exactly where it was supposed to and needed.
We expect to break ground in March of 2026. On Sherman and Shabazz on the northeast side, and Blackhawk Gompers school complexes on the northeast side.
Reporting in Madison, Armand Rahman, News 3 Now.
Armand, thank you. 81% of the district's operating budget goes towards salaries and benefits for its more than 4,000 employees.
Now to your first one forecast. Meteorologist Blaze Keller with a look at the Arctic air that's on the way. Blaze.
That's right. We're set to only climb into the single digits by the weekend, but as quickly as it moves on in, it is out of here. We're back into the 20s by Monday. We'll touch on that in just a moment. I just want to highlight a little bit of light snow stretching from about Sauk City, Loganville there, back south and east through Wanakee, through Deerfield, Sun Prairie. This is light in nature into Jefferson County, extending just outside of Fort Atkinson. This is going to continue to push off towards the southeast over the next hour or so. The cold air set to move in starting Friday night. We'll send our wind chill values to about 20 to 30, 35 degrees below zero, especially Sunday morning. And already parts of Wisconsin getting ready for that cold air. We've got cold weather advisories for northwestern parts of the state. I would not be surprised if all of Wisconsin or nearly all of Wisconsin is underneath some sort of cold weather or extreme cold weather alert. Those are replacing the wind chill advisories, warnings, or watches that took over of October last year. So if you get any sort of alert sent to you from our first warned weather app, That is the reason why, because those have been replaced. So just keep that in mind as we head over the next couple of days with that Arctic air on the way. We are looking at 20s tomorrow underneath mostly cloudy conditions, a little bit of light snow possible. I would say further north, especially north of Baraboo, the Dells. That's where we could pick up about an inch or less of some snow before that Arctic air moves in. How cold our wind chills will get and how warm will warm up into across parts of southern Wisconsin next week in the full forecast.
All right, Blaze, thank you. The 21-year-old man accused of killing a woman in a crash on Madison's southwest side earlier this year is pleading guilty. Ryan Bertrand pleaded guilty to homicide by intoxicated use of a vehicle. He previously faced several other charges, but those have now been dismissed. A sentencing hearing is scheduled for February 20th. The crash happened back on March 6th near the intersection of South Gammon at Raymond Road. Criminal complaint alleges Bertrand was driving 55 to 60 miles per hour right before the crash. A 67-year-old woman died at the scene. 2 children were transported to a local hospital. They both sustained non-life-threatening injuries. And the Milwaukee woman accused of fatally shooting a DeForest native last month is heading to trial. Jamaica Mills is charged with first-degree reckless homicide with the use of a dangerous weapon modifier. The charges stem from a November 4th shooting where police say Mills shot Ariel Spillner after they were smoking marijuana together. Mills will have an arraignment on January 9th.
According to a new study, videos of sexually suggestive AI-generated children are racking up millions of likes on TikTok. The Spain-based nonprofit Maldita.es found more than a dozen accounts posting videos featuring AI-generated girls. The accounts have hundreds of thousands of followers combined. Comments on many videos include links to chats on the messaging platform Telegram. The report says that some of these chats offered child pornography for sale. On the other hand, a first-of-its-kind move could be just the beginning to protect children online. Australia recently passed the world's first social media ban for kids under 16 years old. The 10 banned platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat, will face fines if they don't take, quote, reasonable steps to keep children off of those social media platforms. Now, that's led to parents in the U.S. advocating for a change.
Stand before you as a mother whose only child was taken by something so preventable, so cruel, and so ignored that it should shake every person in this room to their core.
While several pieces of legislation have been introduced in Congress this year here to protect kids online, none have been advanced to law.
Wisconsin Elections Commission has denied a request from the Federal Department of Justice requesting voter information. Earlier this month, the U.S. DOJ demanded Wisconsin's voter registration list, including the last 4 digits of each voter's Social Security or their driver's license numbers. The letter to the DOJ commissioner states, quote, although the commission is willing to provide any non-confidential voter registration data, Wisconsin law explicitly prohibits the commission from providing the full unredacted voter registration list. The letter to the DOJ was signed by all but one commissioner. Another Democrat joining the already crowded Wisconsin gubernatorial primary. Joel Brennan announced today he's running to succeed Governor Tony Evers. The 55-year-old worked as Wisconsin's Secretary of the State Department of Administration from 2019 to 22. He's currently the president of the Greater Milwaukee Committee. Brennan also spent 11 years as executive director of Milwaukee's Discovery World, the state's largest science museum.
The Wisconsin Department of Health Services will continue to recommend the hepatitis B shot for all infants at birth, despite CDC changes. Officials say their guidance is based on firm evidence as well as recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics. Last week, the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee decided that the birth dose was only needed for babies whose mothers test positive for the virus or were not tested before giving birth. And health officials are bracing for what's expected to be a rough respiratory virus season. CDC officials believe this season will be similar to last. The agency estimates that at least 1 million people were hospitalized and more than 70,000 died from respiratory virus illnesses. Those over the age of 65 are especially at risk of getting severely sick.
It's starting to get down to the wire if you need to send out those Christmas gifts. You've got less than a week of shopping left. The Postal Service says you need to send packages by next Wednesday to get them delivered before the holiday. If you want to spend a bit extra, paying for Priority Mail will get you until next Thursday. Priority Mail Express gets you until next Saturday. Tonight, the Sylvie in Madison was transformed into a Christmas village, all part of the Gifts of Christmas community celebration where less fortunate families are given tickets to shop for gifts. This year, over 30 local businesses and organizations came together to donate $56,000 worth of toys, helping serve up to 950 children.
They have the autonomy to pick out gifts that they think their kids would love and use. They get the gifts wrapped. There's hot cocoa. There's Santa photos. It's a whole holiday experience, and we try to make sure that there's just lots of smiles and joy everywhere, not just today, but Christmas morning as well.
Well, since it started in 2020, the Gifts of Christmas has provided over 40,000 children with presents. Still to come at 10, the Senate votes on dueling health care proposals.
And tensions continue to rise between the U.S. and Venezuela. How officials are reacting to the recent seizure of an oil tanker bound for Cuba.
And Blaze returns the latest on the Arctic blast heading our way for the weekend. Stay with us.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
Reactions continue to pour in after President Trump announced the seizure of an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela.
It's the latest move in his escalating campaign against the South American nation. The White House says the Justice Department requested and received approval to seize the tanker, which had for years been sanctioned due to its alleged involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations.
The vessel will go to a U.S. port, and the United States does intend to seize the oil. However, there is a legal process for the seizure of that oil, and that legal process will be followed.
Now, Venezuela's government called the oil tanker seizure a, quote, shameless robbery and accused the U.S. of trying to go after its oil.
Today, the Senate took up competing measures to avoid health care costs jumping for millions of Americans. The Democrats' proposal would have extended subsidies for 3 years, while the Republican measure instead pushed those funds into health savings accounts that would be controlled by consumers. Both proposals failed on the floor, leading to accusations that each side is playing politics.
After today's vote, the American healthcare crisis is now 100% on Republican shoulders.
They don't really want to solve the problem. What they want is a political issue that they can run on in the upcoming election.
Some senators expressed cautious optimism, though, for a bipartisan path forward. But unless a last-minute deal is reached, more than 20 million Americans will face higher costs in the new year.
Well, now to the weather. Here in southern Wisconsin, the Arctic cold will soon move into the region. Meteorologist Blaze Keller with the latest on that system.
That's right. We are looking at some cold air coming on in, and the good news is, in all of this, it only lasts for 2 days. After we get through the weekend, we are actually set to warm on up, and we may stay warmer than average as we go into the Christmas time frame and beyond. We'll touch on that in just a moment. Well, we could see some light snow on Friday. Let's really jump ahead to the cold, because I think that's really the biggest thing over the next couple of days here that we need to focus on. By about this time tomorrow, it'll probably feel anywhere between 15 to 25 degrees below zero. As we go into your Saturday morning, 15 to 25 degrees below zero for a lot of us. Some could be feeling 25 to 30 degrees below zero. As we step into Saturday afternoon, usually this is the warmest point of the day, still feeling 10, 15, 20, 25 degrees below zero. So throughout not only Saturday, but Sunday as well, especially during the morning hours, try to limit your time and your pet's time outdoors. If you do want to get outside, cover up as much skin as possible. Your fingertips, your ears, your nose, and your lips, where the skin is thinner, are going to be more likely to succumb to frostbite than, say, other parts of your body. But it's important to cover as much as possible. And as we look ahead into Sunday morning, this is when likely a lot of that cooler air or that cold air is going to be directly overhead. Wind chill values anywhere between 25 to now 35 degrees below zero for many of us. With wind chill values that cold, we're taking into consideration our actual air temperatures overnight, as well as those winds out of the northwest between 15 to about 25 miles per hour. That means that those wind chill values could cause frostbite to set in within 10 to 30 minutes. So again, this is our latest round of Arctic air. We have not been this cold since about February of this year. It's been quite some time. So please make sure that you are, as I mentioned, dressing for the occasion. We've already talked about the 3 things you need to know, so let me get to that 10-day forecast, because the warm air is actually right around the corner. We're looking at some warmer temperatures as we go into the next really 8 to 14 days. So let me touch on that as well. There is some good news for folks who've been tired of this cold. It is right around the corner, the warmth. We're looking at about a 40 to maybe 50% chance of being warmer than average. What's essentially happening is that atmospheric river out west, it's pushing a lot of Pacific warm air into western parts of the United States, which then pushes the jet stream back into Canada. We warm on up. There is a look at your 7 and 10 day forecast. We are into the single digit Saturday and Sunday alert days for both days. And then we're back into the 20s on Monday, 30s on Tuesday, 40s by Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
All right, Blaze, thank you. Well, today the Packers had yet another practice without running back Josh Jacobs.
But will the running back play this weekend against the division's best defense? News 3 Now senior Packers writer Jason Wilde has an update.
Exactly a week ago, we stood in the Packers locker room and talked with running back Josh Jacobs, who insisted he wasn't going to miss any practice time and he wasn't going to change his style despite a bruised bone in his knee that has been hampering him for nearly a month. He injured it in MetLife Stadium in the Packers' win against the Giants. Well, fast forward to today. Josh Jacobs didn't practice on Wednesday, and he didn't practice today either. The hope is that by taking some of the workload off of him during the week, it will allow him to be healthy enough to play in Sunday's game against the Denver Broncos in Denver. But that doesn't mean that Josh Jacobs has to like the fact that he's not practicing.
Yeah, Doc was like, man, just chill. But also, it's just me being smart, too, because I don't want to – technically, I can go out there and practice, but I don't want to go out there and then make it even more swollen, and then game days it's harder to, actually play. So it's just being smart right now.
We'll find out tomorrow if Jacobs will be listed as questionable, which is what I expect for Sunday's game against the Broncos, a game that you can watch right here on Channel 3 at 3:25 for the kickoff. We'll have full coverage leading into the game and of the game itself on our website, channel3000.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for the Packers newsletter, which delivers that coverage directly to your inbox every single day. In Green Bay at Lambeau Field, Jason Wilde, channel3000.com.
Thank you, Jason. We can't say it enough. The Packers will be taking on the Broncos right here on WISC-TV at 3:25 Sunday.
That's right. A big kickoff coming up this weekend. Badgers sports heading into some crucial postseason moments here.
Yeah, still a lot to talk about in sports. Wisconsin women's volleyball hit the road for their Sweet 16 matchup tomorrow night. Plus, men's basketball looks to move on after a tough loss to Nebraska last night. All that and more next in sports. Wisconsin volleyball has swept their way through the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament. Wins over Eastern Illinois and North Carolina has landed Bucky in a dance in the Sweet 16 for the 13th consecutive season. However, that dance will be held in some uncharted territory. The Badgers will step away from the UW Fieldhouse for the first time this tournament and travel to Austin, Texas, where they will take on Stanford as they look to play at the highest level so far this season.
When you get to this part of the season and just being able to be in the gym with a totally different energy with your players, there's just nothing like it. We head down to Austin this week with three other teams that are having a great year. All four teams, I think, are playing their best volleyball at the end of the season. We've got a big-time challenge in front of us, and Stanford, a big-time opportunity in front of us.
Staying in the neighborhood of the Badgers, we transition now to a different court with men's basketball. The tough loss on the road to Nebraska last night was a game to forget for Bucky. But this week's guest on the Wisconsin Huddle, Austin Rapp, shares a little behind the scenes of the Badgers' first few weeks and some of the things that he sees that could make this squad a contender come March.
Yeah, I think the early struggles is just, being such a new team, having so many new guys. And as you said, there's been times where I'm sure people are watching us and being like, wow, this team could be really good. I think the sky's the limit. Once we put it together for 40 minutes, we played a really good half against Northwestern last week where we had 15 assists, 0 turnovers. If we can keep that up for a full game, I think we'll be scary.
Speaking of, tune in at 6:30 right here on News 3 Now on Friday to watch Austin Rapp and Andrew Banstra on this week's episode of the Wisconsin Huddle. Baseball in this weather? Well, kind of. It might be the off-season for Major League Baseball, but the Brew Crew are making some moves as they sign Akil Baddoo, a 27-year-old outfielder, to a one-year deal. Baddoo, a utility player, can play all three spots in the deep ends of the field. The right-handed hitter also adds some depth and upside to an already proven Brewers lineup. Finishing up back out on the court, the Bucks took on the Celtics for the first time this season, hoping for some change as Milwaukee has lost 10 of their last 12. Early on, however, it was raining threes for Boston as they would get out to an early lead. Peyton Pritchard finding one here. Then seconds later, we go to Jordan Walsh, who was able to find one of his own. However, Milwaukee's Bobby Portis wanted in on the fun, and he was able to find the basket with some bonus distance. He would finish with 27 and help the Bucks claw back into this one after an early deficit. But for the Bucks tonight, the star of the show was Kyle Kuzma, who would finish with 31 points, leading the Deer to victory as they take down the Celtics 116-101. Finally, yesterday's star linebacker and Wisconsin native T.J. Watt was hospitalized after experiencing lung discomfort at the Steelers team facility in Pittsburgh. He was inactive for practice earlier today as he underwent more testing, and his status for Monday night against the Miami Dolphins remains in question. That's it for sports tonight, but don't go too far. Blaze will have a final check of the upcoming forecast next.
Tonight, looking for a new late show? Jill! Colbert's got it with Kate Winslet.
This show just gets better and better.
That's right. CBS Tonight.
Finally tonight, a 68-million-year-old dinosaur named Spike is stealing the spotlight in London. The feathered theropod, which is nearly intact with more than 100 fossilized bones, could sell for up to $6 million at auction.
Experts say the prehistoric creature, around 6.5 feet tall, is one of the most complete dinosaurs of its kind. The rare species has only been discovered in the last decade. They still don't know much about its behavior or its diet. They aren't even sure if Spike was a male or a female. That's amazing
Spike.
nonetheless.
I like the name.
Blaze is back as we get ready for the chill that's coming our way.
That's right. It is going to be a chilly end to Friday, so make sure the kids are going off to school with a winter jacket. You take one to work as well. We'll climb into the 20s, but it'll feel about 10 or so degrees cooler than that by the afternoon, when we could be also dealing with a little bit of some flurries as well. Keep the winter jacket around this weekend. The gloves, scarves, hat, you name it. To keep warm, wear it. Single digits, and it's going to feel much colder throughout the day, especially on Saturday, when wind chill values will keep us feeling like we're about 15 to 25 degrees below zero during the day, 25 to 35 degrees below zero Saturday night into Sunday, 20s by Monday, 40s by Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
And thanks for watching News 3 Now at 10. The Stephen Colbert Show is up next.
And be sure to tune into our morning show beginning at 4:30. Have a great night, everyone.